I think we can do better. Yeah.
Wonder Woman 84 is okay, but it can be better. So much better even. It has some things to offer, some strong emotional scenes and great character moments. It is, however, a bit of a step back into cheesy comic book movies, sometimes that cheese being a nice mature cheddar, and the other times more of a foot fungus sort of cheese. We'll start with what I did enjoy, because although the movie falls short of its potential, there are glimmers of a great character-driven story shining through. For one, the score is just glorious. It gives so much weight to many of the scenes in the movie, and by golly, you'd be a criminal if you didn't get goosebumps during the flight scene or Steve's second goodbye. The costume design is pretty good, it captures the 80s aesthetic very well. However, the setting serves no purpose other than cheap nostalgia and rarely contributes to the actual conflict, other than dumbass Ronald Reagan wishing for literal war rather than peace.
I don't like the way President Reagan's running his country.
Chris Pine is fantastic as a returning Steve Trevor, and Gal Gadot perfectly balances Wonder Woman's emotional vulnerability and brave nature. I'd be lying if I said I didn't get a little misty-eyed seeing Diana cry. When the movie takes its time to give us a purposeful moment between its characters, the talent Patty Jenkins has really begins to present itself. Having said that, this movie has some of the slowest pacing I have ever seen. Somehow the movie ended up having a runtime of 2 hours and 35 minutes, and literally barely anything happens. For reference, that is 3 minutes longer than The Dark Knight, a movie I consider to have an almost perfectly paced and concise narrative. So much time is wasted skirting around here and there, and some scenes don't push forward the plot or even develop the characters at all. I'm shocked that the script wasn't trimmed more, considering movie studios' strictness over runtime. It could be down to the fact that this was released on streaming, which if anything encourages a longer runtime as it costs basically no extra and keeps traffic on the service for longer. A pretty blatant example of the inefficient use of time is the fact that the movie literally has 2 openings. The first 10 minutes of the movie is a boring Olympic-style race that is supposed to end in a lesson for Diana, but is so haphazardly delivered that I couldn't even tell you what the point was.
You cannot be the winner, because you are not ready to win. And there is no shame in that.
This lesson is what ultimately made Patty Jenkins push for the scene not to be cut. But there are so many other places where time is thrown about like it's grown on trees. The entire subplot in Cairo, where Max Lord attempts to take Amir Saeed's oil, and which also extends over 25 minutes, ends with Max Lord getting a security team. He could have just wished for one if that's all that came out of it. It seems sequences like these exist only to shoehorn in some more action for those asleep on the couch already. All of this time could and should have been used to further flesh out the characters. The villains are not entirely one-dimensional, but are a caricature of what real people are like. I honestly was just absolutely pissing myself at Barbara's introduction. She is the biggest dumbass in cinema history, and I imagine the 2 dudes who walk on by here have probably helped her like 30 times in the past week, and at this point I'm just sick of it. As for Max Lord, I understand pride is his motivator due to his father's abuse, but so far into the movie his motivation gets lost and he appears to do all of his work with no end goal in sight. Like, what is his plan? He now has strength and health and the ability to scream. What is his plan after all the wishing? The world will be a radiation-ridden wasteland with nobody left to let him wish again? Doesn't look like it's going anywhere after this, mate. Now, the movie unfortunately has some pretty appalling direction. There are just so many moments that feel like no thought was put into them. At points, people stare into camera, react to conversations happening hundreds of feet away, cops wave guns at an escalator full of people, but more clear in the direction than anything is how dumb the movie treats its audience. Let me break down an example. As I hope you know, Max Lord donates a sizable figure to Diana's place of work in order to get close enough to steal the wishing stone. If you hadn't already figured out this shady con man was here for something else, then it's made clear perfectly in a shot where he eyes up the stone. This is subtle but a perfectly adequate way of telling us his intentions. What the movie did not need to do is this. have him hide the stone behind his back in the most cartoon-ass way possible. So is he literally planning to shag with one hand behind his back? I bet he looks very gentlemanly. We as the audience know why he's there, so this hand holding makes me, and I'm sure others, feel brain dead. As confused as the rest of the story is the action. There is a beautiful flow to some of the choreography, but Diana's time is spent fighting a bunch of incompetent dudes. Like with Superman, the team behind the stunts can't find a way to make the action tense without bringing the overpowered character down a notch. You can really see they tried to incorporate the lasso of truth into the action a lot more, but there are still some questionable things going on. Like here, what is she doing? She just got freaking carried away swinging the lasso about. Our climactic fight between Cheetah and Wonder Woman was a big letdown for me. Not in so much that the action wasn't creative, but rather it was short-lived and dissatisfying, and when also just set in the most bland concrete dump, which also features Spider-Man web swings. Oh, and how does the heir to Asteria's armor defeat her foe? Simple. A cat's two greatest weaknesses: oxygen and 250,000 volts. Now here's the big kicker: the truth. By that I mean the theme of truth, if you somehow manage to forget it after watching this. A motif is a reoccurring or dominant idea in an artistic work, and said idea is just about hammered into your very skull by the end of Wonder Woman 84. Motifs can be conveyed through many differing techniques like cinematography, dialogue, even that of editing and lighting. But the muddled and simplistic delivery of the idea that truth is a primary value to a moral life is basically lost on me. All of the attempts to tie theme with narrative fail entirely, and what's said barely relates to what the is actually going on. So many one-liners masquerading as wise words just made me feel genuinely puzzled.
That is the truth. That is the only truth, and truth is all there is.
The truth is what powers it, not me. The truth is bigger than all of us.
She did it through true acts of bravery, like patience, diligence, and the courage to face the truth.
And there is no shame in that. Only in knowing the truth in your heart and not accepting it. No true hero is born from lies.
I need to go to sleep. Each line is read like it was recited from a self-help book, with me fully expecting each character to turn to the camera to ensure we didn't miss it. Themes should be felt and found in analysis. The theme of truth plays a huge role in The Dark Knight, with Alfred sparing Bruce from the truth echoing that of Batman sparing Gotham from the truth of Harvey's corruption. It felt as if a defining character trait of Wonder Woman was picked in some board meeting and then a script was churned out, making certain to have the word truth appearing every few pages. It almost seems like an immature and unrefined style of writing, which I feel further reflects Jenkins' lack of experience in the writer's room. But hey, enough of the demolition job. I wouldn't have any right in criticising this to the extent I have without at least having a few suggestions of my own to try and correct the course of the script. Firstly, cut out one of the two openings. I prefer the first opening. Although not devoid of cringy moments, it can be far better adapted to serve the story and themes. Instead of having Diana, a child, beating the collective might of all of Themyscira, have her trailing heavily. She takes a short path and cheats, emerging at the gate as the likely victor. She is then pulled aside by Antiope to her anger and dismay. At this point we have Antiope explain to Diana that honour and respect come before glory. In cheating, Diana dishonoured her opponents, who had all earned their right to be there. Hippolyta then consoles an upset Diana, telling her that Diana must be more ambitious. Your purpose is far greater than victory, Diana. You'll be the one to inspire those around you to fight for truth and honour, through acts of love and selflessness, not by defeating others. Look to Asteria. At which point Diana interrupts with, "The great warrior? Yes, but one who's remembered for her sacrifice and bravery, not for her strength. One day soon you will understand." Now we have a nice setup for the purpose of the story, in that Diana must be the one to inspire everybody to renounce their wish. This is a perfect place to redefine how the wishing stone works in my version. The first version has very vaguely defined rules and limitations, like what is to stop some psychopath wishing for the world to end in the final act, or for Max Lord to wish Diana was dead, then his plan would have nobody to prevent it. Here's how mine will work. The wishing stone has the power of the god of deception imbued within it. Therefore, it cannot do anything more than the god was capable of. So nobody can wish for godlike power or for the world's end. Everybody gets one wish, which seemed to be the case, but Barbara somehow got two. Once you've made a wish, you're blind to its negative consequences. It prevents you from seeing the truth, what it is actually costing you. This is what will make it difficult for Diana to convince the world that their wish is in fact coming from that of the monkey's paw. In the original script, everybody has a reason to renounce their wish, as the world is literally on fire. It doesn't matter if you've got £1 million, you can't spend it if all the shops are just ash. The wishing stone will arrive to Diana and Barbara from the FBI like in the original, with both making their wishes in a similar fashion to before. Max Lord seduces Barbara and steals the wishing stone, without doing this, in the hopes to prevent his business collapsing and him going broke, which would lose him custody of his son. He wishes to become the Dreamstone, which in turn makes him deceitful and power-hungry, like Dolos, the deity of trickery and lies. He uses his power on the wealthiest and most influential people in the world first, desiring more power after each deal. Meanwhile, Diana begins to notice changes in Barbara's behaviour, seeing her become cold and distant, and no longer caring for many of the things she did before. This leads Diana to further investigate the stone's origins. Much the same as before, she discovers in Mayan works that the stone is essentially the monkey's paw, taking your most valuable possession in exchange for your wish. She confronts Barbara about this and explains that renouncing her wish will set her free. Blinded by illusion, Barbara refuses, and in turn fights Diana, and threatens to hurt civilians around if Diana does not back off. They fight, and after Diana eventually restrains Barbara, she forces her to renounce her wish. Barbara is returned to her former self, however remains bitter and now seeks revenge on Diana. After a heated exchange between the two, Barbara finally asks, "And what is it costing you? Or don't the rules apply to you?" Which Diana must reflect on. This would be a good time to mention what is happening with Diana's wish. In my version, Diana does not lose her powers. Instead, what she loses is her selflessness, her honour, and her morality. At first, it's unclear how, and this is due to one thing. Diana and Steve do not know Steve has taken over another man's body. So in the original, both of them are somehow okay with the fact that Steve has just hijacked another man's life. Not only did they not consider the fact that the dude probably enjoyed living, but also he probably had family and friends who cared for him. That's pretty f***ed up. To correct this, it will be revealed later in the movie. While on their mission, Diana and Steve will happenstance across a woman taking pictures of couples with her Polaroid. She hands them the photograph, at which they look with shock. The twist can easily be alluded to in earlier scenes. For instance, Barbara could mention his dreamy brown eyes or something. Once this is revealed, Steve will ask Diana to renounce her wish, saying that, "I wish we had more time, but I can't carry on living someone else's." Diana refuses, with the same reasoning she gives Steve in the movie, missing how selfish she's being. Meanwhile, an ever-desperate Barbara looks for any way to regain what she lost. After digging further into ancient Greek history, she finds another relic, an inscribed dagger that was once possessed by the Amazons. A dagger she recalls seeing in Diana Prince's apartment. She sneaks into Diana's apartment and steals the dagger, using Diana's key to translate the language of the gods to decipher the inscription. It reads, "Share your blood with me, and possess the power of the huntress." She cuts herself with the blade, and hair begins to grow from her teeth grow long and pointed, and we hear a roar as we cut away. At this point, Max Lord has assembled all the tools he needs to grant wishes globally. He uses the President's broadcast network and begins to unleash chaos as he grants all wishes unfiltered, taking power and wealth in return. As the world descends into anarchy, Steve takes Diana aside one more time. "I had a great life, and you only made it better. The world needs you. You have to show them the truth, and you can't expect them to hear you if you can't face it yourself." Diana now listens. She cries. "I can't say goodbye. You don't have to. I'm already gone." They share a kiss, and Diana renounces her wish. The flight scene should remain much the same, as it was pretty freaking awesome. After collecting Asteria's armor, Wonder Woman heads to face Max. Before she can enter the broadcasting facility, she pauses, sensing she's being followed, at which point Cheetah pounces and the final confrontation begins. Now Cheetah has a motivation to hate Wonder Woman, feeling as though this choice was forced upon her. And it is during this confrontation that Diana realises that a forced renunciation of the wish does not give you back your end of the deal. Eventually coming out on top, Diana holds a sword to Cheetah's neck, but ultimately spares her life. Cheetah lets out a large hiss and escapes into the night. Now, fully understanding her purpose in the story, Diana faces Max. Approaching the power of a god, Max subdues Diana by simply waving his arm. "You could have kept your pilot, if only you'd joined me. You want him back? Just say the word. You can have him. You just have to want it." In a last gasp attempt, she attaches a lasso of truth around him, giving a speech to the world. "I've never wanted anything more, but he's gone, and that's the truth. Everything has a price, one I'm not willing to pay. So you must see the truth. What is it costing you? Renounce your wish if you want to save this world." Max replies, "Why would I? When it's finally my turn. Because you're not the only one who's suffered. Who wants more, who wants them back. Who doesn't want to be afraid anymore, or alone. You're not the only one who imagined a world where everything was different." At this point we see Max reflect on his past, on his father's abuse of both him and his mother. You're not the only one who wished for a world where you were loved and seen and appreciated. But what is it costing you? Can you see the truth? Max looks ahead and sees his own son, terrified of the man standing in front of him. He falls to his knees and feels shame for what he'd become, an echo of his father. He cries, and his son embraces him. He renounces his wish. Now the movie closes with the same scene as in the original, but this time with a greater meaning. It gives clarity to Diana that she made the right choice. I think this narrative drives home the theme of truth, desire and selflessness a lot more articulately than before. And Wonder Woman can finally move on from Steve, accepting that he is gone. So there you go, there are the changes I would make along with my general thoughts on Wonder Woman 1984. I will be honest, I hope to see another. I hope to see Jenkins return with a more carefully constructed and balanced script. I'm not going to give these movies some sort of arbitrary rating anymore, as my opinion will no doubt change with time. But what I am going to ask is this: what do you think of Wonder Woman 84? Is it better than the first? Is it a hot steaming pile of garbage? Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you guys next time, and always remember, there is shame only in knowing the truth in your heart and not accepting it.